two, one, you're on. Enjoy.
Hello, world. This is Melody.
And I'm Janie.
Welcome to our podcast, Life Unscripted.
A podcast like none other, as we take you on a journey to share real life stories of some of the most iconic influencers in the world who had broken the scripts that once chained them.
We are going to hear about their stories of breakdance breakthroughs, golden wisdoms, and actions they have taken to take their life into meteoric levels.
Our goal is to always provide our listeners values and applications that will allow you to live your best life.
And without further ado, we would like to present our very first amazing, incredible, can't say enough about this woman, Dr. Marissa Pei. Dr. Marissa, celebrity host of the 2016 Podcast of the Year, Top 10 in Health Award-winning show, Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa is an organizational psychologist, speaking and consulting all over the world and motivating individuals and organizations to be happy 88% of the time. Her show guest includes best-selling authors like Dr. John Gray, Don Miguel Ruiz, Marianne Williamson, to MaryAnn from Gilligan's Island, and Muhammad Ali's daughter, Laila Ali. She moonlights as a red carpet MC and celebrity host, interviewing stars like Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, to use their limelight to highlight causes to help heal our planet. Winner of the 2014 Asian Heritage Award, 2012 Asian Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and the 2017 Iconic Women Creating a Better World for All. She is sought after global thought leader. Her balance tools include the app 21 Day Fast from Complaining, which has helped improve all sorts of lives and relationships since 2011. And her DVD balance, Tai Chi Kong, is a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. Dr. Marissa's newest book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are, increases the splatter zone for her messages of hope and happiness for the planet. In her spare seconds, she races recovering teenagers, races sailboats, and lives out her life motto: no regrets for the past and don't die wondering for the future. Take it away, Janie.
Welcome to our Life Unscripted show, Dr. Pei. Wow, wow, wow. Congratulations on all that you have continued to accomplish. What an incredible road your life has taken. We're so honored to have you as our very first guest.
Yay!
Yes. So as you know, Dr. Pei, Life Unscripted is to do just that. Unscript our life of limiting beliefs, perceived expectations, conditioned by society, generations, culture, religion, self that prevents us from being happy and free to live the best fulfilled life in all sectors. So today we're going to dive into why people aren't happy. And according to your statement, 88% of the time. So I'm wondering, why 88% of the time? Can you tell us what led you to that conclusion?
Well, if you're happy 100% of the time, you're dead. So we don't want to encourage that because we're here for a limited amount of time. So that's the first sort of tongue-in-cheek reason. And before I get into the second reason, thank you so much. I consider it such an honor to be the first guest on this Life Unscripted, what's going to be an amazing series of podcasts. So shit. That's Mandarin for thank you, or my Chinese namaste. And this is usually the fighting hand. So you close the fighting hand to show you come in peace. You turn it and you hold it by your heart chakra and you say shit. You don't say S-H-I-T. It's not like that, but it's yeah. And it just takes off. So anytime I say anything in this next hour and you go and you're like, oh wow, you can say shit. Okay? So that's what I teach my students and my clients. And so if you see anybody walking around and doing that, then you know they've been with me. So 88 in particular, 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. And I know you thought I was Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese with a dash of Mongolian, so don't piss me off. But 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homonym for good fortune. So double good fortune, to be happy in a fortunate way. And then the 12% is for contrast. So like I said, if it's 100%, you're dead. We don't want that. And if you're happy all the time, that's not human. It's not reality. It's not possible. But what's been happening around the planet is we may have started at 88% growing up as a child. Around the age of 10, whether you've been born into a functional or dysfunctional home, you start hearing this voice that begins to compare you with other people that usually is a little critical. You know, you're not as pretty, you're not as attractive, you're too fat, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. And then if you grow up in a dysfunctional home, which 7 out of 10 of us do, that's the majority, then that voice is even stronger. And so to be happy 88% of the time is to really focus on undoing or processing through all of the BS, the belief systems that kept us in that lesser place, because it will crush your 88% happiness. So the more tragedy or trauma you have, and the more experiences you have through that filter, the less happy you will be. And then you have this thing called the American dream that we're sort of taught, but not really overtly taught. But think about it. You learned at about the age of 12 or 13 when people started saying to you, so what do you want to be? So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I've got to go do well in school, get a good job, be an expert at it, and make a lot of money so I can have a great marriage, to have children, and then a beautiful house, a number of cars, 7 weeks vacation, and then die and leave all my toys to the kids. So that's the American dream. And then forever, but we don't acknowledge it, is that you don't get into the school you want, or you don't do well in school, or you do those things, you get into a great job and you get laid off. Your 401k disappears from some kind of corruption. Your parents get sick sooner than they're supposed to. Your children end up as drug addicts. If you are in your job, you hate your job, and you live for your weekends, which is 2 days out of 7. You don't, your car breaks down, you don't have money for it, you get sick. So that's the American nightmare, okay, that a lot of us are living. And then to make things even worse, we get up in the morning and turn on the news. And the news is like CNN, constantly negative news. Top 3 stories every time, I'll bet you $1, is murder, rape, or some kind of crime, and corruption. So because we're drawn to that, and we always leave the news saying, is the world going to, am I allowed to swear here? Is the world, dropping into HELL, or it's going to in a handbasket, and what's wrong with the world? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? And so our happiness quotient goes down and down and down and down. So I would say most of Americans right now, at least 1 out of 4, are not 88% happy. Not only are they not 88% happy, they're taking medication. 1 out of 4 Americans are on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, because they want to feel better. The good news is they recognize they don't feel good, but they're still anxious and depressed, and now they have dangerous side effects called suicidal thoughts. It's not a side effect, it's a main effect. And with recent news, Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, the record numbers of teenagers taking their lives, it is time to put the moose on the table, that's my Canadian version of elephant in the room, and say, whoa, stop. Are you 88% happy? Because if you're not living out your birthright. We're supposed to be happy 88% of the time. How's that for a long answer?
I love it. I absolutely love it. So what I'm basically hearing you say is that we are programmed. So we're constantly getting programmed. So in order to get to that 88%, a part of that process is we have to unprogram and understand what's even downloaded in us.
Yes. Call the BS. Call the belief systems that continue to keep you from being happy 88% of the time.
So this is where I interject and go, Shay Shay.
You got it. You got it.
Amazing. So Janie,
got it.
agree with the Shay Shay right here.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
want you to be able to speak freely. So if you feel like you have to, say that, you can say hell.
Okay. Well, I'm sending.
Yes,
okay, I'm syndicated on a CNBC station, and FCC regulations there. I get them all the time, and I have to pay. I'm not Howard Stern. I can't afford $20,000 a blooper, so I end up hiring a video editor. So I'm a little sensitive about.
Yeah, so we cater to all audience, but we also want to go again. It's part of breaking that script, right?
Yes.
Who are we going to offend? But, like you said, call out the BS. Call out the BS, because we are living in the now. We are in the moment. So the emotions that comes up are 100% natural reactions.
Correct.
And we want you to be just in your natural flow of Shay, because I am learning over here. I'm actually taking notes as you speak. So how much is you're impacting. But Janie, do you have anything else to ask Dr. Pei before I move forward with my questions?
Nope, you can go right ahead.
All right. So Dr. Pei, here's what I love about you. You've completely unscripted part of our own upbringing as Asians, right? And in fact, in listening to a prior podcast that you were on, that's how I met Dr. Pei, and nothing is a coincidence. This woman's going to be our first guest on the amazing show, right? And you actually shared openly how you were shamed and you were even beaten up. Could you tell us about that journey? Because you know what, people connect through pain, because we can all relate on that hurt level.
Absolutely, because pain in life is mandatory, and this is one of those BSs that we grow up with, thinking that we are entitled to a perfect life, a perfect family, a mother that's constantly telling you how beautiful you are, a father that's always there with his wallet open, with people around you that are always supporting, and that's BS. People do the very best that they can do, but pain in life is helpful. It chisels us. So in my particular family, not only am I not Swedish and Asian, as I said, there's the cultural thing around the nail that stands up is hammered down. So that's a Chinese saying. There's an equal one in Japan as well. So we're taught to be quiet and subservient, and you can tell I'm really not quiet, and I really don't fall in that cultural norm or trait, and I think it got me into trouble. And so my mom, and things are great, and we can spend a little time on that. She really did the best that she could do. She was beaten as a child as well, and so I remember the one time I asked her, "Why did you do that?" Like I was in the hospital, and she was actually put away for a little bit because the beating was so bad. And I asked her, I said, "Why were you always so angry with me?" And she said, when I was young, we were beaten for once a week, and I never knew why I was being beaten. And so I promised that when I had a daughter, she would know why I was beating her. So that was her BS, her belief system, that you're supposed to do that, and it's a mother's right. So I grew up in, it doesn't matter what you think, the mother's always right. And the mother is only doing things to help you. And now, after I've worked through the understanding and the pain and the forgiveness, I really do get that. I really do get that. Even Asian households, even any person, even like horrific treatment of people. People do the very best that they can do. If they could do better, they would, but they can't. And our jobs is just to do a little better than the last generation. So I think I'm a better mom than my mom was. Not saying my mom was a bad mom. She did the best that she could. I am doing better because I don't beat my kids. I still yell at them a little more than I should, but I know how to apologize. But that upbringing, I think most people who've had that kind of dysfunction, right? I'm always looking to put the fun back into dysfunction. But that was how I learned how to, so let's see, I'm scripted. So I can talk about this now without breaking down and without saying, why me? And it's not fair. And, I should have had a better upbringing. A mother shouldn't do that. If, how could God let a mom do this to me? And I lived many, many years, decades, with that anger and frustration and blame and shame. And the good side is it really spurred me into this accomplishment mentality, because that was the one thing that she actually would praise. So, don't tell me I can't do something, because dang it, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it in less time than anybody else. But what it didn't take away was that feeling of I'm broken, and I don't like myself. And I would get an award or finish something, or first one to PhD in a short time, first one to finish dissertation within the year. And then people would say, wow, look at you. Isn't that wonderful? And I go, thank you, thank you. And then as soon as I was alone, the voice would be, yeah, you fooled them. You're really not that great. And if they really got to know you, you are blah, blah, blah. So that critic that I talked about on Joshua's show, that internalized mom, that internalized critic really drove my life car off of a cliff on a daily basis, because no matter what I tried to do to prove that I was lovable, I was never lovable. And that is a storyline that I think so many people have. This is not my story. This is 7 out of 10, or Oprah, my honorable moniker, she says it's 8 out of 10. I just went online just to look at current statistics on that, and it's up to 93% of us live in some kind of a dysfunctional upbringing. So it's what kills me, though, is that if we're the majority, right? If we're the majority, why is it that we think there's something wrong with us, right? So why do we think we're damaged beyond fixing? Why do we think that we got to catch up because the ones who got all the stuff and got all the goodies are the ones that had normal childhoods? That's baloney. That's another BS bullshitaki this time, because as we are keeping ourselves in that box. We are keeping ourselves in that damaged place that we got to fix. There's nothing wrong with us. We went through what we went through to chisel us into the beauty and the wonder and the unique part of who we are now in the present for a reason. And I can choose to believe that there's something wrong with me and accept that BS, which I did for decades, until I realized, like, wait a minute, you know, I'm doing this to me. This isn't about what was done to me. This is about what was done for me and how I could move through that to another place, to a even more beautiful place. I have a little story, but I've been talking for a while, so
no, go right ahead. So I want you to continue that story. The question I have for you is because you obviously had that big aha moment, you know, and usually, in my experience and in past interviews I've done, you know, outside this, is there is that deepest pain that becomes the catalyst to that ultimate purpose, where that mind shifts, that heart shifts of saying no more. Can you take us there?
Yeah.
about your
Well,
life.
So no accident, because I had a default of feeling unworthy and unloved and undesirable. I chose a man to marry who continued that theme. So he wasn't physically abusive, but he was, and I don't even like the psychological terms, but let's just put it this way. We were two damaged little beings who got together, and he played out his side and I played out mine. And I was constantly rejected in every way. Okay, so you can read into that. And so my sentence was 9.2 years. And I finally, after 6 times of trying to leave, after a betrayal or, cheating, I finally got the resolve to leave and filed and all of that. But then the pain in that pain coupled with the mom pain, it just took me down. I went from drinking socially, this is unfiltered, drinking socially to an everyday drinker because I could not handle the pain. I used alcohol to numb all of that was just now, it used to be a little voice, a little critical voice. With the two events colliding, it was a constant. And then, I went to the doctor and he's like, oh, well, I have trouble sleeping. And he's like, oh, it's understandable. Try some of these sleep pills. So that's like, it's way too easy to get addicted to things that you think are going to help you because all I wanted to do was sleep. And so I can remember a morning where I woke up and I this happens to a lot of people. You just know you can't do this anymore. I'm done. I can't do it. I started thinking about while I was driving, and I don't even think I've put this in the book. So this is interesting. I forgot, or I just didn't put it in the book. But I remember driving down the 405 and looking at the center divider and saying, this could be the easy way out, right? Just this way instead of that way, and I wouldn't hurt anymore. So I can understand people wanting to end their life. I absolutely can. I actually just had Ola Ray, who is Michael Jackson's dance partner in the Thriller, right? She was on my show on, I don't know what this is going to air, but just last week, yesterday. And, she confessed on the show for the first time ever that she also wanted to end her life because of all the sexual advances that were happening from producers and directors, so that was a huge conversation. But so I think that it's understandable that when the pain is so strong that you want to do something to end that pain, to end the voices, to end the anguish. But suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary state of mind. And I say that because because I'm worried about the suicidal thoughts that are a side effect of the medication now. And I don't want to piss off the pharmaceutical companies, a $1 billion industry. And I've already gotten into it with some psychiatrists because my clients who never had suicidal thoughts go on medication and then they call me at 3 a.m. wanting to kill themselves. So I'm personally, on this, there are people who are helped by medication. I don't even, I'm not criticizing you. If it works for you, great. But if it's not working for you, that's who I'm talking to. You really can work from the inside out and cancel and detonate and uninfect those BS belief systems that keep you in that dark place. So that moment of waking up one more night, swearing I'm not going to drink, swearing I'm not going to take the sleep pills, swearing that, I'm not going to hate and blame and shame anymore. And I woke up and I said, help me God. And got on my knees, and that began the journey back. And so I think, I'm not actually religious. So just in case I just dropped the G-bomb, so don't worry. I'm actually spiritual, because I love that definition that religion is for people who want to avoid going to hell, and spirituality is for those of us who've already been there. So,
I love it.
I'm definitely spiritual. I'm definitely, but I think the moment of realizing that I'm not alone, and that's all God is for me, is knowing that I'm connected to a whole, energy field of wonder and bliss, and that it's my birthright to be plugged into that I'm not an accident, that I am worthy, that there's a reason that all these horrible things happen to me. And so that I began that journey to really allow that I didn't have the answer, that the way that all my good ideas led me to that point of where I was, so I knew that there was an answer, there was a way out, and I just stopped fighting. I stopped running. I just stayed still. And that's when I began the journey of, reconnecting with, you want to call it a higher power or an energy. I call him my UPS man. He's my universal power source. And I plug into him every morning in prayer and meditation, and he delivers, just the day, whatever, the day is going to bring. And it's always good, because at 9 o'clock every morning, I have an alarm that goes off that says, how will, and then I pick one quality like prosperity or joy or happiness or love, and say, I wonder how prosperity will show up today. And because I have really worked hard in my blisscipline to stop the BS, and blisscipline is from Michael Bernard Beckwith, by the way, my big brother. He's one of the teachers from The Secret. And he wrote the foreword to my upcoming book, 8 Ways to Happiness, From Wherever You Are. He talks about a blisscipline that is it's not you have, it's like a shift from you have to do this, you're supposed to do this, and you need to do this, to I really want a life that's 88% happy. And in order to do that, I have to take responsibility for cleaning out my BS. I have to take responsibility for how I have stayed in situations that are not working for me, how I have continued to think thoughts that are not good for me, how I have created habits in my life, like complaining, that keep me in that. That's why I have a 21-day app called 21 Day Fast from Complaining. Little commercial, sorry. But it's something that really, helps you take responsibility for what you're doing and stop pointing your finger at the person who hurt you. I'm not saying that, it was okay. I'm not forgiving on your behalf, but I'm asking everyone, really, are you gonna let the guy or the girl who broke your heart in high school ruin the rest of your relationships for the rest of your life? You really want to do that? I mean, that's your choice. But it's like, wow, what we do to ourselves is so much worse than what was done to us in the beginning. Ooh, that's good. I got to write that down. That's what we're doing. And we don't have to do that. The most powerful tool that human beings have is choice. Choice and focus. And if I can get a handle on that, then I have a life beyond my wildest dreams.
I'm going to have to shay everything.
Yes. There we go.
I think we're going to call this podcast number 1, Shay.
There you go.
into Life Unscripted. And then before I move on to the next one, where Janie does have some wonderful, questions for you. You shared something again from the previous show about the passenger in the seat of basically the passenger is a symbolism or analogy of the control that the past still has in you. And I want our listeners from around the world to really benefit from that knowledge, because that's when I went, I love this woman. I have never heard that analogy ever explained in that way. So I don't want to ruin this for anyone. So you take the wheel on this and drive that car.
All right, I'll drive this one on. So, and I could be a little bratty and say to you, well, it's a tool in my book that's coming out on the 7th of August, so you'll have to buy it and read it. But I know that you all will anyway, so I'm going to just share it with you. This is a gazillion-dollar tool. No, I'm kidding. It is, I'll tell you, it is the crux of what keeps us unhappy. So, as I said, if you have the voice, the critical voice, it's even stronger if you've had a dysfunctional past. And that voice, like, it's so important to acknowledge the people that are running your life. Okay, so we think we're running our life. We really aren't. The analogy is this: we have a life car, and there's also that saying where if you hear voices in your head, like when I went to school for clinical psych, if you hear voices in your head, that means you're going to go crazy, or you're crazy, right? I'm here to tell you that if you do not identify the voices in your head, it will drive you crazy off of the life cliff. So when you're driving, I want you to pay attention when you're driving through life and you're about to go on a sales call. And the voice comes in that says, well, you know, you're really horrible at this. You're never going to make a living at this. It's not going to work. You know, I don't even know why you're going to try a podcast. Who wants to listen to you anyways? I mean, come on, really? You're really not, you're not all that, you know. I had someone actually say that, and it activated that you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? And that is my internalized, guess who? My mom. So I call that voice Rose. Guess what my mom's name was, right? Rose. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not knocking Rose. I usually actually say change the name a little bit. So I call her Rosie. And Rosie says to me all that I'm not worthy of. And I listen to that, and I allow her to influence what I do and not do. Okay, so the first step in, you know, being happy and taking the detonation out of your past is to not throw the critic out of the car and run over it on the 405. There are people who say, you know, kill your critic. No, your critic was born out of a coping device so that you would be alive. If you think about it, you know, your critic was actually it kept you out of harm's way when you were young, because it would say, oh, don't say that, right? Or don't do that. And it was a protection device. So the first thing is to talk to the internalized critic and say, thank you very much. I hear you. I know you're trying to protect me. And so you think you're protecting me from rejection, from trying this, whatever it is, job, relationship. But you've been talking a long time. You've been sitting here driving. You've got to be tired. You haven't had a vacation for 3 decades. And you know what? I wasn't strong enough to say I can drive. But I am now. And I got this. And the way I'm getting this is I am going to keep my word. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that strengthens my balanced, centered Dr. Marissa. And so, Rosie, you can sit down. First, I do hear you. If we don't acknowledge that we hear the critic will keep talking because it wants validation. So you acknowledge, I got it, I hear you. I actually have my clients write down all of the critical statements so they have it in writing, so that when the critic starts, the balance-centered you says, hold on, have you said this before? Yep, it's number 8. We got this. We heard it. It's not true. And I got this. So when I say that, the more I say it, I'm soothing my internal critic. The easier and the quieter it gets in the car. So I can move her to the passenger seat. Now, there's another voice that works in tandem with the critic called the brat. Now, my internal brat, Agnes, says things like, so Rosie will say, shouldn't eat that. You're going to be fat again. You know, I saved you from being fat when you were 13 years old. I told you that if you keep eating like that, I took you to a doctor who said, if you keep eating, you're going to be 200 pounds and you're going to be fat and ugly and clumsy. So I heard that message for 18 years. So every time I want to eat something that I shouldn't, that voice gets activated, the critic. And then my brat, who's very strong, says, you're not the boss of me. I can eat that donut if I want to. Screw you. You know, it's your voice that makes me want to eat anyways. I hate you. So just for that, I'm going to eat it. Okay? So there's the battle between the brat or, no, I'm not going to make that call. I don't feel like making that call now. I don't feel like finishing this podcast. I don't feel like finishing the book. I don't feel like all these things. And so the brat, if the brat's driving the car, you know, you go into, and the people that have the strongest brats are usually perfectionists because there's a constant fight between you should do it and I don't want to do it. Okay. So perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. So brats will end up driving your car into a bed under the covers eating bonbons. Okay, so that's the brat. So the critic's driving you into off the cliff, and the brat's keeping you in bed eating bonbons. So the two of them are constantly interacting, and it's not until you stop and say, balance center, Dr. Marissa, and same thing, Agnes, I get it. You don't feel like doing this. You don't feel like, or you really want to eat that. But guess what? We want to be healthy. And it's not because Rose is yelling. It's because this is our decision. This is what we want to do. And you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and a healthy body isn't built in a day. And we're just going to do this, you know, one less donut at a time or one 15-minute walk at a time. And so the strength, and again, how do you grow that balance center, Dr. Marissa, is you keep your word. If I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And so I build more and more strength so that this part of me is stronger than the critic who's in the passenger seat. And then I always put the brat right in the back seat, but on this side, so I can keep an eye on her and not, you know, let her get out of control. So, but you don't want to kill the brat either. Right? Because the opposite of the brat is fun. You know, that's the fun side of us. That's the, let's go, you know, jump in the fountain. Let's go, you know, play a joke on so-and-so. And that's an important part of the brat that we also want to say, okay, I get that you're reacting and I understand, but it's not the time. But I promise that, you know, after this podcast is over, we'll go to the beach and we'll play, you know, then it's okay to do. So that's the brat. And there's one last one, and that's the sad one. And the sad one is the one who got beat. The sad one is the one who got molested. The sad one is the one that got their legs broken, or the sad one is the one who got teased, who got bullied. And so we all internalize that sad one. My sad one was named Sarah. And we that sad one gets pressed down. Don't cry. If you cry, don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. Or it's not that big of a deal. You know, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Don't cry. big boys don't cry, pull your big girl panties up, don't cry. So the sad one never really gets to express until midlife opportunity. So I have a lot, I don't call it crisis. So I have a lot of clients who come at the time of midlife opportunity and they say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't stop crying. I'm crying all the time. And they go to the doctor, who of course gives them antidepressants, which then masks what you're feeling. Okay. And you might feel better, but then you're not sad when you're supposed to be sad, right? You're flatline. You're like, I'm fine, right? You know what fine stands for? Effed up, irrational, neurotic, and emotional. Okay. So we have these people walking around, I'm fine. So, right. So when they come and they say they're crying all the time, I'm like, good. That means you are allowing your sad one to express, and it's not going to be forever, but she's not been allowed to be sad for a long, long time. That's why when tragedy happens, someone close to you dies, like unexpectedly, don't say you're okay, cry, lean on people. That first year is a tough year. It's just going to be a tough year. Don't go on any medication to stop the pain. You have to feel the pain fully. And that's what the exercises in the book do, is allow you to feel that pain fully so that you clean it out. It's because most of us, we press down all of that pain. And what happens to a garbage disposal truck when the lever and you're compacting the trash is when you compact it enough, it turns into liquid, and then you compact it a little more, it turns into gas. So all of this past pain is leaking gas all over around midlife crisis and midlife opportunity, and you don't even know it's there. That you don't smell your own gas, but everybody around you smells your gas, right? Because you're saying things like, I'm not angry, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever you think, but you're not aware of it. And so it's a beautiful time to heal from things that you let get infected down in the dark. So it's a light process. We're uncovering, we're shoveling out the shiitake, and then we find our unique seed that is the whole being that we are, that's beautiful, whole, and complete, and connected to the powers that create the planets and the sand that is not alike one grain, or the leaves, or the grass, and then we shovel the shiitake back as fertilizer, recognizing that all of that pain helped to chisel us into who we are. How's that? Did I do okay?
I can only say Shay Shay so many times. And that's another big wow, Shay Shay.
So I guess the Janie's the, now do you understand why Melody went ballistic? That was the whole model that she liked.
Yes, and there's a lot to unpack there. You talked about our core belief system, which is the BS, which can be our automatic thoughts that can drive us in that car. Yeah. And then we have to come into awareness of that dark passenger, that brat in the back, and not run from them, which I think is an awesome thing that people need to hear, is to not run, but embrace, because we have to go through the pain to find our purpose, to get to that place of happiness. Yeah. But I also like the midlife opportunity, because we have enough history behind us where we can now see a pattern. And in order for us to really look forward, because that U-shaped happiness curve says we should be the happiest at age 52, right? So when we get to that place, we have enough that we can rewrite the script.
Absolutely.
But you also talked about breaking the generations, the generational first looking back into understand. And I'm a big believer that we have to have that PhD in our own history. We have to look back at our own history to understand why we do the things that we do so that we can move forward. So I am just so looking forward to your book, and I can understand why Melanie was like, this has to be our first guest.
Yay.
Yes. Yay. Awesome. We just are looking forward to that. So when you think about, there's a lot to unpack, but when you think about the three main keys that our audience should walk away from hearing some of the things that you shared with us, what do you want to tell them?
Well, first is there's nothing wrong with you. There really is nothing wrong with you. So if you have a voice in your head that is constantly telling you there's something wrong with you, I want you to use that same process, identify who it is, give them the name, write down all the crap that they say, and then begin to grow that balance-centered you. Because that's really the only way to make and turn that corner into a life that is 88% happy. Because that voice will not release you until you become strong enough in your balance-centered self to do that. Another one is, there's so many. So I'm just thinking, which one should I know. So if you're a woman, your critic will actually be stronger than most men's. So I actually have a set of motivational cards called 52 card pick-me-ups, Stacking the Deck for Life Balance with Dr. Marissa. And if you come to one of my book signings and get a book, I'm going to give free motivational cards there. So the card says, have a guy day. Okay, and people are like, huh? So have a guy day means most women are particularly hard on themselves. They think they're fatter, not as smart, and uglier than they actually are. Okay, now most and then when you compliment them, you know, how many times do you compliment a woman and they're like, you go, nice hair, and they're like, oh, I didn't even wash it today. Right? Or, oh, I didn't like the way that cut. Or nice earrings. Oh yeah, I 55 cents, you know, at the store. Or you know, constantly undoing any kind of compliment. So most women do that. Most men, on the other hand, think they are smarter. Now, this is not men bashing. This is actual studies, okay? Think they are smarter, better looking, more buff, and have more hair than they actually do. Okay? So I want you to learn from that. I want you to be less critical, women, of yourself and have a guy day. You know, look in the mirror like a guy does. Have you ever seen at a gym the difference between a woman and a man looking at themselves in the mirror? It's hilarious. You know, the woman's like, you know, like, ooh, God, what? And the guy's like, right? I mean, it's have a guy day, you know, do that, strut, you know, you're gorgeous. Most, you know, women are gorgeous, right? And I do have some clients that go, that's not fair. I don't feel like that. I'm a guy and I don't think, you know, my body's. Okay, I admit, right, I'm making a huge generalization. But I've met more men who follow that than not. So if you're a guy that is very critical of themselves, have a different kind of guy day. So that's number 2. So number 3, I mean, what I'll make this personal. What do you do that keeps? Oh no! I never mind. I got one. 88%. 88%. And I found, well, pianos have 88 keys. And there's I just was speaking at City Gala yesterday, or City Summit yesterday, Ryan Long's events, who's a friend of both of ours, and he had me on stage in a panel. And one of the other speakers was, oh God, I forget his name, but he's health and well-being. And he said there were 88 cellular functions, I think, in our body. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. So this is for all the perfectionists in the audience. And I specifically wrote a chapter just for you because a lot of perfectionists have had no trauma. Now, a lot of people who have trauma use perfectionism as a coping device, but you know, the first chapter is on loneliness, and a lot of people who've gone through trauma have that feeling. So out of loneliness into hope. The second chapter is out of loss into faith. Third is out of heartbreak into love. Fourth is out of hatred into forgiveness. So those are usually people who have had some kind of trauma. Out of shame into dignity. 6, out of fear into freedom. The second last chapter, out of perfectionism into joy, is for the ones who haven't gone through trauma. who make trauma for themselves. And the trauma is this. If you're a perfectionist, and I just love perfection, I am a recovering perfectionist, we think it's a good thing to say, I'm my own worst critic. Like it's some kind of a freaking badge that I'm harder on myself than anybody else. And it's not a badge, it's a curse, because it will never be enough. You will never do enough, you will never have enough, you will never be enough, and it's a constant living in the 12% of what is not yet done. So if this is 0 and this is 100, and it's a goal or a project or something you want to do, most perfectionists go, and they're 88%. So from here to the finish line is 12%, and the good news about the 12% is what's wrong, what still needs to be done, what do I need to transfer over into tomorrow's to-do list, how do I accomplish the rest of this, right? Nothing wrong with that, except that, and we'll say, when I get to the finish line, I'll turn around and say, good job, right? But that's a lie, because as soon as you hit the finish line, you're on to the next goal, and then you're at 88%. So you're constantly looking at what's wrong, what's not done, right? And it's tension and unhappiness. Perfectionists live in a constant state of tension, unhappiness. It's not good enough. And the worst part is we treat people the same way. So, when I have time to date, which is never, I don't go out with Mr. Loser, that's 0. I look for Mr. Perfect, which is not there. I usually date Mr. 88%, right? Now, I talk in the book of, in chapter 4 on love, I talk about the pregnancy model of relationships, which is really cool. And I'm not going to talk about that because you have to get the book. So, but usually, the first 3 months, everything's great, right? It's all glowy and everything. And then reality sets in second trimester. And this is when you don't see the 88% that's good. You're faced at, oh, why doesn't he text back? And why is he always late? And why doesn't he squeeze or put the toilet seat down? And why, constant what's wrong? And that ruins relationships for perfectionists, because you're not going to find that perfectionism. You're not ever going to. So the tool here is turn around. So at 88%, look at all the wonderful things that you've accomplished today. At the end of the day, when you're in bed, do not think about this 12%. You think about this 88%, and you give yourself some love. Wow, that was awesome that you did that. You didn't even feel like it, and you did it anyways. And isn't it great that this happened? And isn't it great that that happened? So that practice becomes a habit, right? It takes 21 days to create a good habit, 21 days to not lose a bad one. So you begin to see yourself 88% well, you see other people 88% well, and you see projects and processes and the things that you're doing as 88% good. That will give you 88% happiness. How's that? Was that a good tool?
That was great tools. I can't wait to get the book. I cannot wait.
Good.
I'm going to make it a requirement in my Women Redeem group.
Yay! Love it.
And definitely incorporating it in all speaking audience to point back to your values as we come to the conclusion of this amazing, incredible, outstanding first episode of Life Unscripted. You have your book that is dropping.
Yes.
You have an app that we can download, and we will be sure to put all your social media handles on the podcast, because you are tremendous in value knowledge that will definitely unscript so many BS belief systems, as you had stated,
Awesome.
That will get people, our listeners, to the next level of living a happy 88% life.
That's
according to your video. So, and if we could add any more value to your own purpose and journey, what is your want list that we can help you with?
I would love for you to go and 8waystohappiness.com on August the 7th and buy between the hours of 11 and 3. If you're not in California or Denver, if you're in California, Southern California, I have 5 book signings or 6 book signings in 4 days. One in Denver on Thursday, August the 6th. Thursday, August the 9th. And then my birthday is August the 10th. I fly back to Aliso Viejo, Barnes & Noble's at 7. Saturday, Marina Pacifica, Barnes & Noble at 12. Saturday, 4 p.m. at Barnes & Noble, 6 o'clock Barnes & Noble in Burbank. And then in Redlands at 4 the following day on the 12th. And then my opening where you get tons of prizes and tons of gifts is at Fern's Garden in Long Beach, California. So that's for all my local people. I definitely will come out to Florida to do a signing. My publisher's red carpet is actually in Nashville, so I'm going to make a round in the fall and maybe come out and see y'all in Florida.
We would be more than happy to absolutely host something. We're going to work on that because, your presence just here. It's just, as I said, just authentic, that energy, we talk about spirits and everything. But imagine, I don't even know how we're going to handle ourselves, Janie, when she comes in person. It would be that red carpet shay.
Yes, all the way.
Over there. Well,
we definitely will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr.
Absolutely.
Marissa Pei. I mean, you have armed our listeners with so much value and just a truckload of, if you were the first and last guest we ever had on Life Unscripted, we would start and end this podcast saying we have accomplished what we had set to do because of people like you.
Thank you.
So,
and please go to my Facebook, Dr. Marissa, and give me the finger. A thumbs up. Yeah. And then on Instagram, I'm Doc Balance. And then, of course, you can listen to the show live streaming, my website, drmarissa.tv, my YouTube channel's free subscribe for all of those interviews that I've done. Love to stay in touch with you. We're in this together. Each one of the 7.3 billion of us are unique, beautiful, loving, lovable, and loved creative beings who are wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. And that's my job, is to continue to splatter that all over the planet. So I need you. There's stuff on my wall that you can share. I've got a day cause campaign right now. So if you have friends on Facebook, we can reach gazillions of people instead of just hundreds or thousands, because I want everybody to be happy 88% of the time, because they deserve it.
Well, for those listeners who may not be seeing this video, when she said give the finger, it's the thumb. Okay, so give the thumb on all her social media. And not any other finger, please.
It's the like.
But
we certainly will continue to support you and all that you're doing. You are a beautiful person, and you're just bringing so much life and hope to those that you are impacting, and I can feel it. And we look forward to continually collaborating with you in the future. So we want to thank you again, Dr. Pei. We have come to the end of our first episode, and what an outstanding way to get this podcast going. What do you think, Melanie?
We could just have her in the next 20 podcasts.
I love you guys.
But we love you. We thank you again for blessing us and all the listeners around the world with your life journey and completely unscripting all those limited beliefs that look at you now.
Yeah.
And that means if Dr. Marissa Pei can get there, guess what? We are with her, all 7.2 billion. You just have to tune into our podcast consistently to follow folks that are just outstanding like her, and follow her in all her social media handles. We definitely will, with Life Unscripted, be one of your #1 fans. So as we come into this conclusion, this is your host, Melody Garcia.
And Janie Lacey. And remember to live life happily unscripted.
And for more information, please visit janielacey.com, melodygarcia.com, lifeunscriptedjm.com, and you may also send us an email at lifeunscriptedj as in Janie, M as in Melody, so that's lifeunscriptedjm@gmail.com. Until next time, live a happy, unscripted life.
It's all about balance. Peace in and peace out. World
to
peace
peace
through
yourself.
inner peace.